Right now at noon, new details in a Madison homicide investigation as police arrest two people in connection with the incident. Plus, the Justice Department releases a third batch of documents from the Epstein files. How the DOJ is responding to more mentions of President Trump in the files. You're watching News 3 now at noon. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Josh is off this week. We begin this noon with new information about a deadly shooting on Madison's north side. Police say this afternoon, two people of interest are in custody. Police say the arrests were made early yesterday at a house on Milwaukee Street. The shooting happened Saturday night on Portage Road just behind the airport. First responders took two men to the hospital with gunshot wounds. A 22-year-old man died while the other is being treated and is expected to recover. Reports indicate the victim who died was a graduate of East High and a student at Vanderbilt University. The investigation is continuing. The Madison Police Department is investigating the arrest of Madison School Board Vice President Maya Pearson and the founder of the nonprofit Urban Triage, Brandy Grayson. Police say the situation started late Friday night near the Majestic Theater in Madison. They say Grayson drove over cones into a loading zone and refused to park somewhere else. When police arrived, police say they smelled intoxicants on Grayson's breath. They asked Grayson and Pearson to get out of the vehicle, and after both women refused, officers say they physically removed them. Police say they arrested Grayson for disorderly conduct and resisting an officer. Pearson, who is also a member of Madison's Police Civilian Oversight Board, was arrested for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. The city of Madison is also investigating this through their Office of Independent Police Monitor. They say this presents unique circumstances due to the role of the complainant. The Madison School District sent us a statement saying in part, quote, "To be clear, this incident is unrelated to district operations and does not involve MMSD." The statement goes on to say individual matters like this are managed in accordance with MMSD policy and any applicable laws. Pearson did not release a statement. Charges against Pearson and Grayson have not yet been filed. Slenderman attacker Morgan Geyser is heading back to a state psychiatric hospital. The order comes after Geyser escaped from her group home in Madison last month. A Waukesha County Circuit judge granted a request from the State Department of Health Services to revoke Geyser's release privileges. Last week, Geyser told the judge through her attorney that she would not fight revocation. Overnight, the Justice Department released an additional 10,000 documents related to its investigation of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The latest batch of materials offers new details on Epstein's associates, including President Trump. Olivia Rinaldi reports from the White House.
Newly released documents include court records, emails, news clippings, photos, and hundreds of video files. One Justice Department email says then private citizen Donald Trump flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane many more times than had previously been known. According to the email, Trump is listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 1996, including at least 4 that co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell was on board. The email also notes Trump flew on 2 occasions with women described as potential witnesses in a potential Maxwell case. In a likely already public criminal complaint filed against Jeffrey Epstein's estate in 2020, a Jane Doe alleges that when she was 14 in the mid-90s, Epstein introduced her to Trump at Mar-a-Lago. It's important to note that President Trump has never been charged in connection with Epstein and has tried to distance himself from him. And there's no criminal wrongdoing alleged in these newly released files. The Justice Department released a statement saying some of the documents in Tuesday's release contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election.
I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago.
On Monday, President Trump once again accused Democrats of using the Epstein controversy as a distraction.
What this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has.
By law, the DOJ had a Friday deadline to make public all of its Epstein files, but so far has done just a partial release, claiming it needs more time to protect sensitive victim information. Olivia Rinaldi, CBS News, the White House.
The Senate's top Democrat, New York's Chuck Schumer, called for legal action against the Department of Justice for not releasing the files in full. CBS News has learned a group of Epstein survivors is planning to come back to Washington in January to press Congress to intervene if the files are not released in short order. Turning to weather now, let's get a check of the first warn forecast with meteorologist Jacob Montesano.
The conditions that we saw yesterday, especially the temperatures, that's what we're going to see for the next couple of days. Above normal with some sunshine, especially today, although once we get towards Christmas, even Christmas, we'll see more cloud cover. But for this afternoon, we're going to have those high temperatures in the lower 40s with a good amount of sunshine, which will unfortunately melt some of that snow and lead to the chances of a white Christmas being a little bit less. But that's about the only bad news with the forecast this afternoon. Now, as far as foggy conditions go, we are going to continue to see some patchy fog at times, especially later in the night. Now, this afternoon, the fog should be clear, but then it will move back into our area tonight and into Christmas Eve morning, and also Christmas Eve night into Christmas morning. We could be talking about some more fog as well. But in general, temperatures will be above normal. Lows tonight in the middle 20s, and then tomorrow we will see more cloud cover compared to today, but we are going to see those temperatures pretty similarly peaking near 40. But I'll have more on your Christmas Day forecast coming up a bit later.
All right, thank you, Jacob. Governor Tony Evers is extending an energy emergency declaration in the state. That's due to continued pipeline disruptions. The governor first signed an executive order declaring an energy emergency on December 5th. He says the health, welfare, and safety of our neighbors depends on access to fuel for home heating. And as disruptions continue, this emergency declaration will help ensure that folks and families across the state have the fuel they need to stay warm and safe. The extension will now run until January 16th instead of the 2nd. Well, if you're hitting the skies or the roads today, you might want to leave as soon as you can. That's because between 1 and 7 p.m. today are the worst times to travel. That's according to AAA. It says the best time for driving is before 10 a.m. CBS's Chris Van Cleve is avoiding it all by hanging out at the airport.
More than 10 million Americans have already passed through TSA checkpoints during this busy end-of-the-year holiday rush. The TSA says it expects 44.3 million flyers between last Friday and Sunday, January 4th. Jordan Baldry was getting ready to fly to Bozeman, Montana with his dog Scout amid a busy scene at Los Angeles' LAX airport.
So just looking forward to seeing family and friends is kind of what we think about if it gets frustrating.
At the Orlando airport, the holiday rush is a chance to stress test new technology. Flyers clearing customs are using this new walk-through biometric technology. The new scanners take a picture and verify the person's identity against their passport photo within seconds before the traveler can walk right through.
Passengers are like, wow, is it finished already? Because you literally walk up to a device. It literally takes about 2 seconds, and then you're gone. And it does it far more efficiently than a human being can do it.
Customs and Border Protection says it's seen a 43% reduction in wait times and claims a 99% match rate.
It relieves the administrative burdens from the officers so that they can do what they do best, which is to talk to the traveler and determine their intent.
On the roads, AAA predicts a record number of nearly 110 million Americans will drive for their year-end trips.
Just bring patience with you, that's like the number one thing.
With heavy rain expected across California, the drive on Christmas Eve could be dicey for many along the West Coast. Now, the next real busy push, in fact, the busiest of the holiday season, is expected to be the weekend between Christmas and New Year's, with that Sunday being possibly the busiest at airports of this entire travel stretch. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Coming up next on News 3 Now at noon, the price of gold reaches an all-time high and why bourbon maker Jim Beam says it's pausing production at its main distillery in Kentucky.
Gold prices jumped to an all-time high Monday, topping more than $4,400 per ounce. Analysts say the surge was driven by geopolitical tensions and softening monetary policy. The price of silver also jumped Monday to around $69 per ounce. Jim Beam says it plans to pause production at its main distillery in Kentucky beginning January 1st. The bourbon maker's Japan-based owner, Suntory Holdings, tells CBS News the temporary halt is to allow the company to invest in site enhancements. The move comes as U.S. spirit exports fell 9% in the second quarter, partly affected by President Trump's tariffs. Exports to Canada were particularly hard hit, with retailers there pulling American spirits off store shelves. Meanwhile, alcohol consumption has also fallen to a 90-year low of 54%, according to a Gallup poll. The company says the campus will remain open to visitors. And Mercedes-Benz USA and parent company Daimler AG have agreed to pay nearly $150 million to settle claims by multiple states that the company secretly installed devices in hundreds of thousands of diesel vehicles in order to pass emissions tests. Mercedes-Benz says the settlement allows it to resolve remaining legal disputes, adding that it still finds the allegations unfounded. That's your CBS News Money Watch report. For more, log on to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the CBS Broadcast Center, I'm Jesse Mitchell.
Thank you, Jesse. Let's check stocks at midday on this Tuesday. The Dow is up 91 points at the noon hour. The Nasdaq is up 80 and the S&P 500 is up 19. The Call for Action volunteers are in the building this afternoon. They're taking your consumer complaints and taking action on your behalf. If you need some help, call for action at 608-270-2833, or you can submit a claim anytime at channel3000.com/call for action. Pam Jahnke is off today, but we'll have today's farm numbers when we come back, and Jacob is tracking the first warn forecast. And then later this afternoon on Live at 4, we preview the new batch of episodes of Stranger Things, the final season, coming out on Christmas Day. Well, Pam is one of those millions of people on the road we talked about earlier. So here are your farm numbers for Tuesday. Well, some unseasonably warm temperatures are moving in for Christmas. Here's Jacob Montesano with the complete forecast.
Taking a look at the three things you need to know, we're going to see some patchy fog for the next couple of mornings, and it also will continue to be mild compared to normal. The highs will be around 40, average highs around 30, so we are going to see temperatures about 10 to 15 degrees above normal with some very light rain possible, especially tomorrow later in the day. So looking at those rain chances for the rest of today, we are going to see a good amount of sunshine, almost no chance of precipitation. Some foggy conditions and cloud cover will redevelop later tonight. And for Christmas Eve and Christmas, we are going to see a lot of cloud cover, but not a lot of precipitation. But most, if not all of the precipitation will be in the form of regular rain, and the best chance of it will be tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. Could see some light freezing rain, but we're certainly not expecting any major travel impacts from the precipitation. And then as we get towards Christmas, we're going to continue to see the mostly cloudy skies with another small chance of rain, but even a less chance of rain compared to tomorrow, and even tomorrow's rain chance won't be too significant. Now, looking at the temperatures, once again, this afternoon will be pretty comfortable. Plenty of sunshine, highs in the lower 40s. Tomorrow will feature more cloudy skies, highs in the upper 30s, maybe some lower 40s out there, but certainly staying above normal. Well, it will feel a little bit cooler with the lack of sun, but still not too bad at all. And as we look towards Christmas, before I show you the Christmas forecast, let me talk a little bit about some Christmas climatology across Madison. The average high is 28, but we've been as warm as 56, and the coldest high we've ever seen is -5. And actually, the warmest high and the coldest high occurred in back-to-back years. Now, the snowiest Christmas was back in 1950, where we saw 3.5 inches of snow, and it snowed about 24% of all Christmases. Now, in terms of white Christmases, that occurs about 66% of the time, and a white Christmas occurs when there's at least 1 inch of snow on the ground at 7 a.m. Christmas morning. Now, with the lack of snow that's on the ground right now and the mild temperatures, the chances of a white Christmas right now do look to be pretty low. And even if we do officially have a white Christmas and there's an inch of snow, by the time we wake up Christmas morning, it's not going to be that typical white Christmas that you see in all those Christmas movies. Temperatures will be mild, upper 30s, some cloudy skies, small chance of rain, but should stay pretty dry for Christmas. And we're going to continue to see those mild temperatures to end the week Friday and Saturday. By the time we get to Sunday, that's when the temperatures are going to cool down. We also are going to see some windy conditions with the cooler temperatures, and that could lead to some wind chills, maybe below 0 for Monday morning and possibly Tuesday morning as well. But despite the cooler temperatures, we're really not tracking any snowfall at that time. And this week, we're probably not going to see much of any snow. And next week, it doesn't look like we'll see much snow either. But we will see some colder temperatures as we end this year and begin next year.
Thank you, Jacob. The Winter Farmers Market is set to return to Garver Feed Mill next month. Starting January 3rd, you'll find over 50 vendors selling cheeses, vegetables, local meats, and baked goods. The market will run every Saturday from 8 to noon until April 4th. SNAP and EBT services are accepted, but you'll have to visit the information booth to use your Quest card and food share with local farmers. Today, Monona is hosting its Santa Send-Off event. It was originally postponed due to snow squalls and freezing rain. No problem with the weather today. The event is back this afternoon at 4. You can help send Santa off as he begins and ends his loop through the city near the Monona Public Library and City Hall. Coming up next at noon, UW Health clinical dietitian Michelle Harnish is back with us. Oh, we're going to talk about the dreaded holiday weight gain and why it may not be all the food's fault. Oh, come on. It's so much easier to blame it on that. Right, Michelle? We'll be right back.
My husband hit
Well, UW Health clinical dietitian Michelle Harnish is back with us for this month's health segment. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Thanks for coming in so close to Christmas.
Oh, you
we
bet.
appreciate it. And today we're talking about the dreaded water retention and the
Yes.
weight gain from the holidays. It seems like it's inevitable, but what's the difference? How do you know if you're gaining weight or if it's just water?
Right. If it happens quickly, then it's usually water.
Okay.
And people, some of the biggest mistakes they make is to weigh themselves right after the holiday. And when they see the weight go up, which it most likely will, they panic and
Yeah.
they think that it is permanent and they think that it's fat mass. And you probably haven't eaten the thousands of calories you would need to put on a couple pounds of actual fat. So it's usually water.
What are some of the sources and symptoms of water retention?
Yeah, well, normally you can feel like your feet and your toes get puffy, your ankles might swell, you might just feel a little bloated around the middle, and it can have to do with either some food or behavior changes that can happen anytime, but definitely more consistent around the holiday season.
And it's always usually salt, right?
Salt is a big one. Salt is the one everybody knows, but also extra sugar, extra processed foods. Extra alcohol if you're having the holiday cocktails, which also usually have sugar. So those are some things to watch out for. And then behaviorally, if you're getting less sleep and you're getting less activity because of all the other holiday things that are taking up your time, you're just going to retain a little bit more water from those as well.
Yeah, it's sort of the perfect storm at this time of year. All of those things seem to compound and happen at the same time. So what's your best advice?
Well, my best advice is wait a couple days after the holidays before you weigh yourself. Give your body a chance to expel that. Don't panic. Get back to your regular non-holiday eating and habits. And then after a few days, drinking water, being active, you're going to push some of that water weight out. And when you weigh yourself several days later, you'll find that you might actually be pretty close to your pre-holiday weight.
So there's no need to panic. And one thing that's interesting is you said, even if you're feeling kind of puffy or swollen, continue to drink water.
Right.
Which would seem counterintuitive.
It does seem counterintuitive, but the more that you drink, the more that you're going to have to go to the bathroom and the more that your body can reset that water content. So it is important to drink water and do a little sweating. If you can get out there and exercise, that's another way to exercise and release some of that salt and water.
And then it's the new year and then you can start all over.
Right.
So don't beat yourself up.
That's right. Do not beat yourself up.
Great to see you, Michelle.
Thank
Have
you.
a great holiday.
You too.
And Jacob is back with a final check of the forecast.
The next couple of days will feature temperatures above normal, highs in the upper 30s to lower 40s. We will see some small chances of rain, especially for Christmas Eve in the afternoon and evening, but it mostly will be in the form of rain, not really seeing any snowfall in the forecast this week. And even as those temperatures cool down starting Sunday, we're not expecting much snow for next week either. So the chances of snow going forward do look to be pretty small.